Hello, hello, beautiful and amazing people. So, it is I, Brynhild Underwood, coming back to you again with another Topic Tuesday. Um, I don't have a guest star or anything during this Topic Tuesday. I thought about getting one, but really I just kind of wanted to talk about stuff on my own for once, one on one. So, yeah. Um, so a trigger warning, just in case, you start watching this on YouTube or anything once I put it up there. We are going to be talking about gender critical people, TERFs, fascism, misinformation, and everything. And I'm also going to be talking about things like medical transition, people accusing transgender individuals of being in a cult, stuff like that. Um, and it all kind of wraps together, by the way. So, to start off, whenever it comes to gender critical individuals and TERFs and whatnot, um, it's important to remember whenever you're talking with them that they're not going to engage you in good faith. Like, you can give them all the evidence in the world, but they don't care. Okay? They really don't. And part of the reason I'm saying this is I actually did recently. Sorry for that ding, by the way. I should silence my phone. Um, Part of the reason I'm bringing that up is because recently I was trying to engage with a gender critical person. And I had someone ask me in private why I continue to argue with these gender critical individuals, even though I know I'm not going to get anywhere with them. I know, nothing's going to change. They're not going to listen to what I have to say. It doesn't matter what kind of facts I bring up, it doesn't matter how well researched the evidence is. Like, I had this individual send me a Harvard paper talking about sexual characteristics, chromosomes, etc. And they're like, you need to get educated. And I linked a separate Harvard article that was all about transgender stuff, about how we need to be respected, about, all this other stuff. And their Harvard paper was all about facts and logic, even though it didn't even prove what they were stating, whereas mine, which clearly backed up my viewpoints and everything, was somehow wokeism. It was somehow fucking what did they call it? But yeah, they were basically like it's misinformation, it's lies. And it's like, bro, they're literally from the same group. What are you talking about? Um So that made me take a step back and question, why do I argue with gender critical people online? Why do I argue with fascists? Why do I do all this other stuff? And I've come to realize that, sorry, my keys are getting stuck on my chair. Um I've come to realize, oh, my screen is also very blurry. Let me fix that camera. Do do do. Boop boop. Yay, okay. I've come to realize that the reason I tend to argue with gender criticals, fascists, etc., I don't do it for me. I don't do it because I want to convince them, because nothing's gonna convince them. It's pure reactionary stuff, it's pure emotion. I'm more putting my viewpoints out there, I'm putting my evidence and everything out there so that people who are on the fence can see it and can see how this argument is going. One person being calm, being rational, providing actual scientifically backed studies, research articles, etc. And then they see another person who's just a reactionary, who's screaming obscenities, screaming insults. You know, yeah, I want them to see that. I want them to see the difference in culture between the two groups. Um, but then in addition to that, I know that there are times whenever I personally have my own misgivings about myself, my gender identity, etc., when a lot of what gender critical people say start to seep into my head and it starts to get to me. And so by having these discussions online, these arguments, they're not discussions. Even though I'm literally arguing with a wall, this is a way for me to self-affirm what I'm actually going through. It lets me prove to myself and say to myself that I know what's really going on. I know the logic behind this. All this stuff they're spewing is complete BS. None of it's true. None of it makes sense. None of it's backed by anything at all, right? And it's the same way with fascism in general. Like, I can sit here and argue with my mom all day long that Mexicans aren't going to come up here and rape her. Okay, it doesn't matter. She's gonna believe that Mexicans are evil because that's the kind of person she is. That's what makes her comfortable. If she admits that what she's been doing and everything is racist, that her sitting here screaming about Mexicans coming up here to rape her, if she admits that that's bullshit, she's gonna have to admit that other stuff she's been saying and spewing is also BS. And that's gonna cause her entire worldview to come crashing down, and she can't mentally handle that, right? Um, so yeah. um, so I am going to cover a few questions that were asked from other people to me about transgender stuff. Um, so I'm going to keep these names anonymous, partially because they asked me to keep them anonymous and also partially for my own reasons. Um, so one question someone asked me is how, sorry, how has medically transitioning affected your life? Well, mentally speaking, medically transitioning has greatly increased my mental faculties. I am a lot calmer now. Um, I'm no longer an alcoholic. I have lost over 100 pounds just from me no longer depression eating. Like, I would get off work, stop by the Harps near my house, grab a 6 pack of this alcohol that I really liked, and I would finish all of it off in a single setting with whatever I had for dinner. And I might like go out, grab a couple bags of chips, and I'd finish both bags of chips in one sitting with that 6 pack. Like, that was common for me. That was normal for me. And I would finish a whole bottle of wine by myself in like an hour. I'm no longer doing that. And I didn't even realize I had really stopped doing that until nearly almost a month after I started HRT. It had that level of effect on me. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to have that effect on everyone. HRT isn't a cure-all. It doesn't fix everything. I still have depression. Um, I still have anxiety issues. I still worry a lot. There are still issues. But it has greatly helped my mental health. It's helped my life in general immensely. Definitely the strangest occurrence was whenever I was at work. So I didn't actually come out at work, I was outed. I came out to a handful of my coworkers, and these were people that I had trusted. I do still trust them. I don't know who outed me, but yeah. I came out to 3 or 4 coworkers that I really trusted, and then I went home and I had my days off, and then I came back into work, and suddenly everyone knows I'm trans, everyone has questions. And yeah. So that was weird. Um it's very strange people approaching you or feeling like they can approach you and ask you all kinds of crazy questions. Um like I'm basically expected to be a guru, a sage of knowledge whenever it comes to gender stuff and like all this other stuff just because I'm trans. And it's like, no, Becky, I can't speak for so and so. I'm not them. I don't know why they did the thing. We're not a fucking hive mind. Sorry. It doesn't work that way. Um so yeah, that was interesting. I have had some pretty interesting experiences at work because whenever I was first outed, um, one sec, I need some tea. So whenever I was first outed, there was kind of a divide within the within the hospital. Um, so some people supported me, some people didn't support me, and then some other people were very, very against me being trans. There were some individuals, handful of men, handful of women, who pretty much like they were like, "Oh, she," well, they didn't call me she, but "Oh, she's trans. That means, X and X. That means that she is a fetishist. She's all this other stuff. She's super sexist, etc." So that was definitely not very fun. But as time has gone on, because I've been medically transitioning for over a year now, just over a year, and I was outed about a month after starting HRT. Um, a lot of the women that were critical of me have stopped. I remember one person who was very, very against me using the women's restrooms and changing rooms. She has actually advocated for me to start being able to use them now because she is worried about my safety. And she has asked me, like, do you still feel safe using the men's restroom? Because I don't feel safe with you using the men's restroom. I'm afraid of you being hurt. So that was definitely interesting. She's basically de-radicalized herself just from working with me, and seeing who I really am. And then I also had another very interesting experience. There was an individual, I'm not gonna say, who they are, their name. I'm gonna say they, them for them, just to help keep their privacy private. They also struggle with alcoholism. And they heard me talking to another coworker about how happy I am about, having lost weight, no longer being an alcoholic, how I feel so much better, I feel so much more alive. I'm not constantly hungover and it feels great. And they approached me and they're like, "Hey, is it true that, you actually did." Oh, there was some lag on my stream. Sorry. But she approached me, she said, sorry, they said, fuck, well, there goes that. They said, "Is it true that you're no longer an alcoholic?" And I said, "Yeah." And we just kind of talked. And they had always been kind of critical of me and critical of gender stuff in general. Jesus, my stream really lagging that bad? Damn. But anyway, she approached me and, you know, they talked about how hard it was for them to quit, or well, to quit, how hard it was for them to manage their alcoholism, how they had to go through extreme therapy, they had to go through detox, like they had to go through all this other stuff. They had to go through rehab. And how the biggest part of managing their alcoholism was going through therapy and dealing with the stuff that was causing them issues. And so hearing me talk about my alcoholism, about how HRT helped that, about how, being authentic, actually being myself, being perceived as and treated like a woman, etc., how that basically helped me overcome my own so easily. I guess that kind of flipped something for them because suddenly they stopped approaching me like in the past they would approach me, and if we did talk about any of this, it was they approached me as with the mindset that they are absolutely correct and that I am a sexist and they're just trying to make me realize I'm a sexist. Nothing I could ever say, no matter how much evidence it has, could ever convince them otherwise. But they stopped approaching me like that and they started listening, and we had a very heartfelt conversation about fear, about all this other stuff on a few days ago. And I really feel like they've made a lot of progress. And they actually use my proper pronouns and everything. And, you know, there has been great change in such a short amount of time. And I'm very thankful for it. So yeah, medical transition has greatly affected my mental health. It's also affected, my lived experience with everything, aside from being disowned by my parents. I'm not going to talk about my family stuff. Um, Medically speaking, medical transition has affected me quite enjoyably. Um, Certain physical things feel much, much better now than they ever did in the past. I got tits. I like them. They're great. They're bouncy. They're a nice handful. Um, I have period-like symptoms sometimes, so during the later half of the first week of each month, I start having stomach and thigh cramps, and it sucks so hard. And I get so moody, and it's so hard to not like I swing wildly between I want to eat literally everything in the cabinet, and I don't want to eat anything. Everything sounds absolutely disgusting. No one talk to me, and it's wild. But I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. Um, so yeah. Let's see. Next question. Um, okay, so this next question. I sometimes receive the accusation that being trans is akin to being in a cult. How do I give a rebuttal to this? Well, there isn't really a rebuttal to give. The reason why we seem like we may be in a cult is partially because we're protecting ourselves. There is the in group, out group mentality, and trans people are threatened. You know, there are a lot of countries we can't go to, we're not safe in, we're constantly having our rights refused, all this other stuff, right? And it's dangerous and it sucks and we deserve better. So what we tend to do as a minority is we tend to create a in-group and out-group. We will, how do I put this? Okay, so it's like Tran, okay? I started Tran in order to provide a safe place for people, especially queer, especially trans people. And part of that came because of True Scum and whatnot attacking me. So we, as a minority, will create a safe space for us and create an in-group, and then we will do what we can to insulate ourselves from the out-group, you know? Like, even though, I don't agree with True Scum and everything, and they don't agree with me, both groups are trans. Both groups face a lot of the same stuff, but because one attacks the other and the other one in return puts up a wall between them to keep themselves safe, we have effectively split ourselves up, and you now have these two subgroups within a minority that don't want anything to do with each other. In addition to that, we tend to latch on to specific people in the trans community. Like, whenever I started my YouTube and Twitch channel, part of it was because I wanted to emulate individuals like Natalie Wynn and Abigail Thorne, people that I had watched transition and that basically helped prove that I am a dumbass whenever it comes to my own head, because one of the reasons I had spent so much time not transitioning was because I was convinced it would never work for me. I was just going to end up coming out looking like an incredibly ugly woman, so on and so forth. But both of them, through watching their transition, they were able to prove me wrong, you know? So we tend to latch on to specific trans individuals, and basically we become fervent about following them. And they're not perfect, you know? So, like, if you're a trans person and you're into philosophy, you probably know Natalie Wynn, you probably know Abigail Thorne. If you're into movies and stuff like that, you probably know Elliot Page. There's all these other trans people for specific things, sports, hobbies, all this other stuff. And if you're into that subgroup, you're probably gonna find the trans people in that subgroup and you're gonna latch onto them. And you're gonna basically be like, yes, these are the people I'm gonna emulate. These are the people I wanna be like. And we do kind of create a little worship cult around them. Like, Natalie Wynn has had some bad takes. She has. And there are some people that treat her like, oh, she's a goddess. She never has bad takes. If you honestly think she has, you're a sexist, you're a trans misogynist, you're secretly a TERF or a true scum. And then there are other people like, yeah, Natalie Wynn is literally Satan, and if you like her, then you're an absolute idiot. And it's like, no, Natalie Wynn is human. She's fucked up. We all have. Yeah, she's had bad takes. I'm gonna have bad takes. We all have. I used to be a literal Nazi. I was stupid as fuck. Like, people make mistakes. Some mistakes are way worse than others. Some mistakes you can't really recover from and you can't really be forgiven for. But I think it's important that we continue to humanize each other, right? Like, if a true scum came up to me and they're like, hey, I'm suicidal, I'm going to say, okay, let's talk. And I'm going to try and get them the help that they need, even if, I don't agree with their viewpoints and everything. Um, and in addition to that, I think we need to give people the room and space to take pride in growing. Like, if someone does something wrong, I don't want to punish them. I don't like retribution, period. If they've done something wrong, I want to give them the space to grow and do better. And if it's clear that they're not going to do better, then I want to take away from them the power to hurt others. That's all I care about. I am all for that rehabilitation. And I think we need to give people the room to take pride in growing as a person, Because I take a lot of pride in the fact that I am no longer a Nazi. I look back at who I was and I think, wow, old me was incredibly stupid. I can't believe I had those beliefs, those ideas. You know, it was so stupid. It was so illogical. It was so reactionary. It was sexist. It was racist. It was stupid. I'm not better now. I'm not cured, but I am a better person. I've let go of so much of that, and I know that I still have a lot more to give. And I'm okay with that. I'm never going to stop growing. I'm never going to stop trying to be a better person. I don't ever want to stop. And I take pride in that. So that's kind of why being trans, why people accuse us of being in a cult. And that's also partly why, what you call it? That's why it can sometimes feel a little culty, is we tend to try and insulate ourselves. Next thing I wanted to talk about, because I didn't have any more questions brought up. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about the clothing closets at schools that have started to become more and more common. Um, so there's a recent thing where schools will have these clothing closets where people can donate clothes and then they can come to these closets and get clothes out. And it's been allowing transgender individuals to wear one set of clothes to school, get changed at school so that they can give the proper gender representation to themselves, go to school normally, and then get changed back out and go home in the clothes that they went to school in. And this has been incensing various conservatives, and they've been claiming that we are grooming children, and that's not the case. This is a form of protecting children because being trans, it isn't an ideology. It isn't a cult. It isn't, all this other BS that they say it is. And being trans can be dangerous. And kids deserve to not be threatened. They deserve to go to school, not worry about shit, get stuff done, and then go home. That's what they deserve. Um, so yeah, this is just a way for kids to watch out for themselves and to take care of themselves. If you honestly have a problem with that, if you are honestly afraid of your child not talking to you about, them being gender, them being gender. Sorry, if you have problems with your if blah blah blah. Okay. Get it all out, get it all out. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you are afraid that your child is not going to talk to you about being queer, then you, as a parent, should openly and proudly support queer things in front of your child. That way they know it's safe. That's all there is to it. Because otherwise, your child has a right to their safety. You do not own your child. Your child is a person. They have their own rights. They deserve to be respected and they deserve to be happy and safe. Period. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what religion you have. Your children deserve safety, and you, as a parent, do not own them. They are not your slaves, and they don't owe you shit. Okay? You chose to bring them into the world. They didn't get a choice. So they don't owe you anything. You gave them the gift of life, and they get to do with that gift as they see fit. If you don't like it, well, don't have a fucking kid. Um, so yeah. And conservatives really dislike a lot of this stuff because one of the things with conservatism, and if you're a conservative watching this, I'm sorry, you're not going to like what I'm about to say. Um, being conservative is essentially fascism light because society is going to continue to change. Technology is going to continue to march forward. Medical science will continue to make progress. You cannot stop progress. Minorities will always reach out to try and gain better rights, better representation, happiness, safety, etc. You cannot stop that. And conservatism is fundamentally about conserving what is, and a very large portion of the time is about going back to a mythologized past. It's like, oh yes, everything was better back in the 80s. We need to go back to the 80s. It's like, no, the 80s sucked ass. We're better now than we were in the 80s. Sorry. And so, yeah, conservatism is a majority of the time just diet fascism. And that's why they overlap so easily, and so many fascist groups are so conservative all throughout history, Well then. Sorry, I just got a weird pop up. Okay. So the last thing that I really wanted to talk about was different types of medical transition. In particular, different types of surgery. So I know that MB individuals, non-binary, they don't get a lot of representation, and they deserve better than that. So do trans men, but that's a rant for another day. Um, there's a bunch of different types of surgical transition, and you as a person deserve, if you so choose, to get that type of transition. It's not for everyone, and choosing not to get surgical transition or, stuff like that, it doesn't make you any less of whatever it is you are. I am a woman. I have a dick. That's all there is to it. Like, some chicks got dicks, some chicks ain't. That's all there is. You know, there ain't no more to it. Oh, sorry, my accent started coming out again. Some chicks have dicks, some chicks don't. That's all there is to it. Yay. Okay, the accent is back under control. I'm not going to transform back into the southern lady. Okay. Um there are various different types of medical surgical procedures for transition care, such as different types of top surgery, different types of bottom surgery, facial surgery, etc. So for MB folk especially, I wanted to talk about something called, well, I've seen it nicknamed patch. Okay. So instead of getting a, vaginal surgical alteration or a penile one, you can get one where it's just a patch. Okay? It's literally just a spot of skin between your legs that is about the size of space that a vagina would take up, or a, uh, penis with testicles would take up. And all it is it's a patch of skin that can self lubricate most of the time and is very, very sensitive. And it basically allows you to engage in sexual things without having to use a vagina or penis. It is a thing people don't talk about a lot, but it is possible. I haven't actually spoken to anyone that has received this surgery. However, I have seen other people talk about it, and some people say that it's really great, that it's allowed them to actually enjoy sex, that it has allowed all kinds of crazy intimacy and unique experiences for them. Some people were like, okay, it was okay, but I didn't really care for it, so I got a different surgery, you know? And that's okay. It's okay to experiment with yourself. It's your body. And in addition to that, for vaginal surgeries, you can get zero depth vaginoplasties. You will basically have what appears to be a vagina, but there will be no depth to it. You can't have penetrative intercourse. Some people are fine with this. I know more than a few trans women that only really like anal. Hell, I know a few cis women who only like anal. That's fine. Um, I mean it is fun. But anyway, yeah, it's zero depth. There's no, you can't have penetrative sex with it, but it looks more or less completely real. You can still urinate, all this other stuff. Sorry, had to cough. Um, you can get different depth vaginoplasties. You can get different types of vaginoplasties. Some of them look more real, some of them look less, some of them have much bigger clitorises. Whenever it comes to penile ones, there's all kinds of different ones. Um, so yeah, if you want to get surgical transition, it is up to you. And please don't let anyone pressure you into doing that if you don't want to. It doesn't make you any more or any less of a man, woman, or whatever it is that you are. You are you, period. Okay. Exactly. Thank you, Marith. Well, Marith, welcome to the chat. Unless you have a question or a statement you'd like to make, then I think I'm going to call it for this stream because I don't really have anything else to add. Okay, what is your statement? Trans lives matter. Hell yeah. So I forgot that this is Topic Tuesday and I don't have my chat box going in the background. Marith stated, most look more or less real, as in the sense that gynecologists can't tell the difference on the surface level. She then stated that they have a statement they'd like to make, which is trans lives matter. And hell yeah, trans lives matter, black trans lives matter, and we need trans liberation now. Um, I have actually worked with gynecologists who were unable to tell the difference between a transgender woman's vagina and a cisgender woman's vagina. And it was quite funny seeing the look on their face whenever they asked this woman, like, oh, have you been sexually active? Do you think there's any chance of like getting pregnant? Do you want birth control or anything? And the woman is like, I can't really get pregnant, but thanks. Huh? Why can't you get pregnant? I'm trans. I ain't got a uterus. Oh shit. It was great. It was fun. The look on their face was just perfect deer in the headlights moment. It was great. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for coming to this Topic Tuesday. Please remember to eat and drink. Uh, if you are listening to this on YouTube, I air Topic Tuesday every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. CST. So please feel free to come and join us. It is Bryn underscore the underscore Valk on twitch.tv. Okay. I love you. Please take care of yourselves. Please know that you're valid. I Calvin, Crap, I'm having technical issues. Okay. And click.